Okay guys, so we just got a short video today to show a system using a small shackle as a slack tender when climbing. This is one we talked about on Arborist site recently, and this is what I use. You can buy these in sailing supply shops or chandlers as they're sometimes called. This particular one's made by Ronstan and it's called a halyard winch. It's generally used for the purpose of lifting the mainsail up the mast, and so this part here clips into the top of the mainsail, and a rope would generally go in here to lift the sail up. There's a little pin here which is removable, which separates the two, and that's a very useful feature for use as a slack tender. This particular one also has a captive shackle, which means it can't fall out, which is a good feature. If you're going to buy one of these, I recommend going with the one that has the separator on the shackle and also the captive pin. So this solves a couple of problems here. Now let me just get this hooked up. If you're climbing just on a normal hitch system, you generally have your prusik down here and your tie-in on the same carabiner, and as you're taking up, you then have to advance the hitch manually by hand. Another problem is that sometimes if you take up, all the slack will get the prusik caught up in your biner there sometimes, and when you advance it, it can catch up on the gate, or even sometimes flip the biner a bit sideways. This type of slack tending shackle, as opposed to a pulley, it's quite cheap and it's very simple and fast to use. I've just used a bit of throw line to attach it on there, and what you do with it is you attach it onto the fixed side of your line, not the prusik side. So just use a normal prusik knot, or whatever kind of prusik knot you like there. I'm just going to use a double prusik. So that stays on there. This doesn't actually bear any load, but the zinget is probably rated to a few hundred pounds, and the shackle I think is rated to about 600 pounds, just out of interest. So once you got that on there, it's really easy. All you do is just sit that on your line and engage the pin, which is pretty easy to do, and then you can just slide it up to wherever you need it to be, so that as you advance your line, it tends to slack for you, and you can just position it really easily anywhere on the line there so you don't get any sipback. There we go. So now as we pull, it advances for us automatically. So it's a nice easy system. It's really cheap. You can use it with any type of prusik that you like to use. One of the problems I find when using a slack tending pulley is actually they tend to slack a little too well. So if you need some slack, it's really hard to pull out unless you're also pulling down on the other line while you're giving yourself slack. Which is a pain sometimes when you need a bit of slack to go for a reach, or you're doing a bit of limb walking maybe. The nice thing about this system is it's really easy to take it off. If you don't want the slack tending feature, you just pull it off, and I just leave it hanging on the line there. And then when you want some slack, it's really easy to give yourself as much slack as you need when you're limb walking. And then if you're going back into ascending mode, you need to pop up a little higher. It's nice and easy. You can even just do it with one hand there, and then you're back to automatic slack tending again. One of the other nice features about this, of course, which might not be so obvious, is that if you've got it set with very little setback, as you advance, the prusik, it stays fixed. It doesn't slide down, so there's no chance of it getting hung up in your carabiner there. Some guys are using, little rubber bands and stuff here to stop this moving, or some guys will set it on the other side of the biner there, so there's no gate for it to catch on. But with a system like this, it's pretty nice that as you advance, prusik just stays nice and still there. So yeah. Another feature which we talked about briefly on the website there was that when you're using a footlock or when you're using a foot ascender, you can really only ascend sort of, if you weren't using a slack tender, only ascend so much as your prusik gets down to about waist height there, because then you've got to tend the slack manually. So the height of the step that you can take with a footlock or with a foot ascender is limited to the length of your prusik. If you're using a slack tender, whether it's one of these or a slack tending pulley or whatever, you can really take some huge steps, really big, nice long steps, because the slack's getting taken up manually. You don't ever have to worry that you're going to have to reach right down there to pull the prusik up. So that's it. It's a nice simple system. You can pick one of these up for just a few dollars. Make sure it's got that divider pin so that it doesn't fall off the prusik cable, and that it's got a captive shackle. And there you go. Made by Ron Stan. You can pick it up in most sailing shops.